Hello, friends in Ireland. This is a great honor to get to join y'all and to say thanks for the extraordinary work that you have done over the decades on behalf of the environment close to home and around the world. Um, I obviously am going to tell you a certain amount of bad news, and then I'm going to turn it into good news as best I can. You know that we are in a hard moment right now. I mean, I wrote the first book about climate change, so I've spent the last 4 decades or so watching as those early warnings came true. I got to confess, some of what we're seeing now terrifies and rattles even me. The fact that temperatures in the Antarctic were 70 degrees Fahrenheit above normal last month, not a good sign. Um, we've let things get very far. And even if we do everything right now, we're going to be dealing with extraordinary damage we already are. At the same time, we're watching as the very same thing, fossil fuel, underwrites the first big land war in Europe in my lifetime, which is a long lifetime. To watch tank battles across the plains of the Ukraine is terrifying. And it's maddening because it need not be. Vladimir Putin runs his army on oil and gas. 60% of Russia's export earnings come from hydrocarbons. Look around your house. Try to find something Russian to boycott. You won't find a thing. It's just a big gas station. Not only that, oil and gas is his weapon. It's what he used to keep Europe cowering for a generation in the face of his bluster and threats and bullying. So that's the bad news. Fossil fuel is underlying the destruction of our peace and the destruction of our world. But the good news from that is it means that if we are willing to take these steps to get off of fossil fuel and fast, then we have some real chance of dealing with both these things. In fact, that is such a golden opportunity that we daren't miss it even for a minute. I just finished a long, elaborate piece for the New Yorker magazine here in the States about where we stand right now. And where we stand in some ways is in a good place because the scientists and engineers have done extraordinary work over the last decade. They've dropped the price of solar power and wind power 90% over that decade. This is now the cheapest power in the world, and the batteries to hold it are coming down in price day by day. That means that there is no longer a financial or technical obstacle preventing us from making rapid progress. The obstacles remain what they always are: inertia and vested interest. And those are things that we must overcome. We can overcome them if we organize together in all the ways that we know. We've stood up against new fossil fuel projects. That's crucial. We've stood for divestment from fossil fuel companies, and no one has done a better job of this than Ireland. And we are endlessly grateful for the work of organizations like Trocare and everybody else who have made Ireland an example of how to do this. Now we're trying to take on the banks that finance the fossil fuel system. Barclays, the big American banks, Citi and Chase and Bank of America, and others, because without that capital, there's no way for the fossil fuel industry to keep on expanding. We're at such a decision point now. I mean, I'm talking to you on Monday morning, and it was just released, the new IPCC Working Group 3 report, and when it was released, Antonio Gutierrez, the Secretary General of the UN, and the closest thing that the planet has to a spokesman, the planet and all of us and all of creation that live on it, he's the closest thing we have to someone who speaks for all of us. He said a lot of things, but one of the things he said was, that at this point, it's both moral and economic madness to keep developing fossil fuels in any way. So that's why we fight so hard to get done what we can. If we can make this switch, lots of good things happen. Despots get defunded. The world's carbon concentration stabilizes, begins to drop. The 9 million people a year, most of them poor, who die from breathing the combustion byproducts of fossil fuel, will be able to take a deep breath, fill their lungs, not choke. That 9 million people a year is no small number. It's more than died from COVID and HIV/AIDS and malaria and tuberculosis and war and terrorism combined last year. And all of it unnecessary, because we now know how to do the things we need to do with clean electricity. We can stop burning things here on planet Earth. After a highly successful 200,000-year career of setting things on fire, our species could instead now, all of a sudden, rely on the fact that the good Lord placed a burning ball of gas 93 million miles away in the sky and gave us the wit to know how to make full use of it, to capture its rays on photovoltaic panels, to capture the breezes that come from its differential heating of the earth in wind turbines, to take the steps that we need to take to make us, well, to make us halfway whole anyway. None of this will be easy because it has to happen fast, and it has to happen over that brutal combination of inertia and vested interest. But that's why we work together as movements. We're past the point where our individual actions can make the climate math work. We're not going to solve our problem one Tesla at a time. The most important thing individuals can do is be a little less individuals and join together on the large-scale changes to our politics and economics that allow huge progress fast. You guys are key to that. You've been at this longer than anybody in Ireland, and you have the clout to make it happen. So I'm extraordinarily grateful for all the work that you do, and I will look forward to seeing you in person sometime down the road so I can say thank you face to face.